Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? What's everybody? Here we are, Patrick Davis, your host of the Fringe podcast. We are thrilled to say 2024, we are back, we are back, we are back. Yeah, get it. Gang, gang, we're here. So excited to be back on the podcast. We've had a lot of up and down, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of great things to bring you up to speed on. We will also be launching, re-uploading and launching all of our past episodes. If you have not checked those out, we encourage you to check those out. There's a lot of great, amazing conversation. If you're joining us for the first time at the Fringe Podcast, we want to let you know what this podcast is all about. The Fringe Podcast exists to tell stories that are worth telling, man. Conversations worth having. And so we're going to have a wide variety of guests on the podcast. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything. But I was thinking about what would be a good thing to start off this new year with. We've taken a long break, and I couldn't think of a better topic other than what I talked about yesterday at one of our services, and it was this idea that we are all changing. I don't know if you knew that or not, but homeboy, homegirl, we are all changing, bro. A lot of people, I ain't changed, I'm still the same. You are changing. Whether you realize it or not, you're changing. I want to read this quote by Heraclitus, and this is what he says. He says, no man steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man. I'm going to say that again for those of you in the back. No man, no woman steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man, or she is not the same woman. There's one thing that's in constant process of change, and you know what that one thing is? Everything, bro. Hey, everything down to a cellular level, we're changing daily. All of us are changing. And so we're going to jump into this discussion, this conversation today. I don't know if you knew that or not, but everything is changing, man. The world's changing around us. You look at even just society, culture within the last, couple years, everything's changed, man. The landscape looks different. The political landscape looks different. The social landscape looks different. Even from last week, sometimes it feels like. There's another quote I want to share with you, and man, when I read this, I was like, bro, that is powerful. And it's by Stephen Moffat, and this is what he says: we all change when you think about it. We're all different people all through our lives, and that's okay. That's good. You got to keep moving. So as long as you remember all the people that you used to be. Man, that's good. I'm going to read that one more time for you. We all change when you think about it. We're all different people all through our lives. And that's okay. That's good. You got to keep moving. So as long as you remember all the people that you used to be. Man, one of the challenges in the Old Testament, when God leads his people out of slavery, he leads the Israelites out of Egypt, is he tells them over and over, don't forget Egypt. Don't forget where you came from. I don't want you to live there. I don't want you to stay there. You don't belong there. I've come to lead you out, but don't forget what you've gone through, man. And as we come into a new year, as we think about all the stuff that you and I have gone through this past year, man, you may have barely made it to the end. You may have barely made it through 2023, but you're here. And something crazy happens when we forget. We forget where we've came from, when we forget the people that we were, when we forget our past. Something horrible and toxic happens when we forget where we came from. One of the reasons why he told them, I don't want you to forget Egypt, is because he didn't want them to become slave masters themselves. Yeah. See, when you forget where you came from, it's real easy to become the very thing that you hate. Some scientists say every 10 years, that every 7 to 10 years, it's different based on who you ask, but essentially every 7 to 10 years, we essentially become new people, because in that time, literally, bro, homegirl, every cell in your body is a new cell. It's crazy. So literally, think about this. This is wild, man. Literally, the body that you're walking around with 10 years ago is a completely different body. I don't know about you, but man, that's weird. That's strange. It's almost kind of creepy. It's true that individual cells that have this finite lifespan, and when they die off, they're replaced with new cells. There are between around 50 and 75 trillion cells in the body. Think about, this is what blows my mind, bro. When you think about people who will say unequivocally, man, there's no God, there's no way there could be a God. You mean to tell me that every cell, every 50 to 75 trillion cells just magically know how to recreate and to die off and to create a new one? It's amazing. Every type of cell in your body, if you didn't know it, it has a different lifespan. And when somebody dies, this is wild, man. When I learned this, when somebody dies, it could take hours or even days before all the cells in the body die. This is how they do forensic investigations when it comes to crime or determining the cause of death for somebody who passed away. Red blood cells, if you didn't know, they live for about 4 months, and white blood cells live for about for almost a year. White blood cells live on average for more than a year. Skin cells, those of you with all that dust in your bed, those of you feeding the bed mites, the dust mites, look dust mites up later if you're bored. Skin cells live about 2 or 3 weeks. Colon cells, we're going somewhere powerful here, man. Follow me. Colon cells, thank God for that. They die off after about 4 days. Some of you, they probably die after a half hour. Sperm cells, they got a lifespan of about 2 or 3 days. And then this is weird, man. This is where things get strange, where they take a twist. Is your brain cells, they typically last an entire lifetime. Neurons in the cerebral cortex, for example, they're not replaced when they die. So even though you're literally your whole physical body changes, how do we have the audacity to say that we aren't changing as people? If on a fundamental level, literally on a scientific, biological level, our whole entire body is being changed from 7 to 10 years, what makes us think we're not changing as people, right? It's wild to think about. Isaiah 43, there's this interesting text, and I want to read it. It says, "This is what the Lord says, He who made a way through the sea, a path through the mighty waters, who drew out the chariots and horses, the army and reinforcements together, and they lay there never to rise again, extinguished, snuffed out like a wick. For the former things, do not forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. The wild animals honor me, the jackals and the owls, because I provide water in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland, to give drink to my people, my chosen, the people I formed for myself, that they may proclaim my praise." There's this amazing promise that God's like giving his people, and this is wild, and this has everything to do with you and I in 2024. God wants you to know, man, hey, just like your body, bro, just like your cells are changing, just like your body's changing, I want you to know that I'm constantly doing a new thing. And I want to remind you that change is a part of this journey called life. Now, some of us, we love change. Some of us, we grew up getting evicted, moving from house to house. Some of us, you may have come from a military family and you traveled and you changed schools. Some of us are more acclimated to change than others, but for some of us, change is really, really, really hard. Some of us, we can get stuck in life. We can get trapped in this routine with people, maybe with our spouse, our job, even in your walk with the Lord, and you start hitting a wall. You start hitting a wall, and you get frustrated because the things that you used to do and the way that you used to approach life, and maybe the way you used to approach the people around you, it just doesn't seem to be working anymore. Something has changed. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You ready? Here it is. It's you. You are what has changed. We're all changing. 2024, man, we're all changing, whether you like it or not. We all change. We all evolve. But the question I've been thinking about in my own life is, who is it that I'm evolving or changing into? This walk with God, this walk with Jesus, it's a journey, man, of transformation and change. And if it's a journey and that journey just naturally, intrinsically involves our body changing, the world changing, everything around us changing, then maybe the way we connect with God and the people around us should also change. It's easy to get stuck in the past, man. I don't know if you know anybody, classic movie, if you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite. I actually preached a whole sermon on Uncle Rico. Those of you that haven't seen it, you're like, what is this dude talking about? But there's this ridiculous movie. I encourage you, when you get a chance, man, watch it. It's wild. I remember the first time I went to see it, I went to the theater. I was in this band at the time. We were touring all over. And one of my bandmates, and they were a bunch of clowns, man. They loved to joke around and play. And one of my bandmates was like, oh, we got to go see this movie. Now, mind you, they had already seen this movie. They knew the whole situation and what was going down. And so I go and I approach this movie like every other movie looking for a plot. And about halfway through, I'm just looking around like, what is this even about? And then I realized, oh, wait, man, we've all seen this or lived it in one way or another. And there's a character in the movie. His name's Uncle Rico. The main character, Napoleon Dynamite. He's this crazy dude, super weird, eccentric, has this wild curly hair. You know, he just talks funny. Everything about him is just off the chain. And he's got this uncle that lives with him, and he drives around in this van, and he literally carries a camera around, and he films himself throwing a football. Now, mind you, this dude at this point is probably, late 40s, but in his mind, he's convinced he's still the same dude he was in high school. And so there's a scene in the video where he's got his little tripod set up, his camera set up, and he looks at Napoleon and his homeboy, what was his name, Pedro. He looks at Pedro and Napoleon, and he said, hey, boys, I bet you I could throw this football over the mountains. And, they're looking at him like, you idiots. He said, I bet you I could throw this football over the mountains. And then he goes on this rant, and he's like, yeah, man, if coach would have put me in fourth quarter, we'd have made state, man. I'd be sitting in the jacuzzi with my soulmate. Uncle Rico, man, he was stuck. He was stuck, bro. He was stuck in the past. And it's possible for us to get stuck in the past, and often there's two ways we get stuck in the past, and I was thinking about this. And for those of you that don't know anything about the Fringe, about who we are and what we do, we have a reentry program. We have a nonprofit called Fringe Industries. We employ people coming out of prison, people coming out of addiction, people that have gone through treatment. We help people who are homeless get off the street. And then we also have the church, which is the Fringe Church, that provides a sense of community and a sense of, just a way for people who are coming out of that stuff, and other people who haven't gone through it, to connect with God. And what I've seen, because we got two wildly different groups of people. We got those that have experienced that in our community, and then we have the normal people, whatever those are. Let me let you in on a little secret. None of us are normal. And but it's funny because it's just such a random group of people. And I was saying Sunday when I was preaching that, like, if any person walked in here who didn't know us and didn't know what we were doing, and they looked and they seen this group of people together, they would think, man, these people don't go together. But that's the beauty of what's happening. It's people coming from all walks of life. And when I think about getting stuck in the past, and I think about, how we have these several different groups of people that come to our community and are part of our church, I think about those like myself, who for us, the ways we get stuck in our past is we have a dark past. We have a hard past. There was a trauma. There was something hard. There was maybe an addiction back there. For me, it was prison. It was drugs. It was all kinds of chaos, unresolved childhood trauma. There's something dark in our past that it seems really, really hard to break free from. We get stuck. And one of the ways I've learned how to get unstuck is you got to let people into that space, man. You got to reach out for help. You got to talk to some people. And so there's those of us that are stuck. We get stuck in our past because of the bad, because of the trauma, the tragedy, the dark past that we have, the regrets, the things that we wish we could have done different. And I'm going to get into something about that in a minute that I think is super powerful. But then there's the other group of people, and you might be listening to this. You've never been to prison. You've never been hooked on heroin. You know what I mean? You don't have the story a lot of our people have. But maybe for you, the reason you're stuck in the past is because you're just thinking about the good old days. Maybe for you, life was better back there. Maybe you weren't single. Maybe you weren't alone. Maybe you had the job that you wanted. Maybe you made the money that you made. Maybe you were in a different state of health and your body was in a different condition. And so the reason why you can't move forward is you long for the good old days. Man, if I could just get back there, I would be okay. And so I want to tell you, if you're listening to this, no matter where you sit on the side of that coin if you're held by your past because it's a dark past, or you're held by your past because it was good and you don't want to let go of the good and you can't imagine anything better than what happened back there. I want to tell you that part of the way you lean into transformation, you lean into restoration, is it demands that you let go of all hope for a better past. Part of the way we change and we move and we step into that new thing that God has for us is we have to let go of all hope of a better past. Some of us have a good past. Some of us have a horrible past. But God wants to tell you, and he wants to remind me as we're sitting here and having this conversation that, man, I know that was good, or I know that was hard back there, but I want to tell you the best is yet to come. I know life was good back then, and I know you had some great things going on, but I want you to know that I could do something even greater than what happened back there. For some of you, you might be feeling older and tired, and you wonder what your place is in this world and what your place is in the grand scheme of things, and you feel like you've stepped out of your prime, and man, if I could just be in my prime. I want to remind you that if you still have breath in your lungs, he is still making all things new. He's doing a new thing. There is still purpose and destiny inside of you, bro. Like, don't drink the Kool-Aid that you're out of your prime. I hate that, man. I've always hated when people say that. Oh man, when I was in my prime. And granted, like, bro, hey, I'm not some 20-year-old kid anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go try to do certain type of things the same way that I used to do them. But I reject the idea that somehow because I'm not at this ideal youth age that somehow there's not a place or a purpose for me. Like, that stuff will kill you. If you still have breath in your lungs, he's not done with you. It's not over. There's still purpose and destiny. And there's this weird promise in that text that we read. He goes on to say, hey man, I'm going to make a stream in the wasteland. You know, for us, you know, living in 2024, you know, in a modern world where you can turn your faucet on and water comes out, like, it's hard for us to wrap our minds around this. But if you live near Death Valley in Nevada, or you live places in the Middle East where there's no water and there's no sign of life and everything is dry, and that may be where you feel like life is for you as you listen to this. You feel like everything is dry, everything is barren. You're just sitting in a wasteland and you don't know how to get to the water. There's this promise that he says, hey man, I'm going to cause a stream to flow even in that place. See, for some of us, we've thought, and I believe this lie at different points in my life, that if I could just move to this place and be around these people, if I could just go there, if I could just live in this geographical location, then that's where the thing is happening. And I've come to learn through hardship, of struggle, of, you know, my friend Luke Day, he's got this phrase that he says, struggle well, learning how to struggle well. I've learned that, man, the wasteland, if I don't run from it, that's actually the place that I will find provision. That's the place I'll find blessing. It's not the place where logically I should go. And that's where we get it twisted, is we think, man, if I could just get over there, if I could just get around these people, if I could just be a part of that, if I could go to that concert or hear that message or have that experience, then suddenly I would feel better. Everything would be okay. But man, I'm telling you, bro, the water hits different when you don't run from the wasteland. Some of you got to stop running from the wasteland. It was a barren and stagnant landscape. If a stream starts flowing, think about this in your own life, in your own city, in your own family, in your own community, and where you live. If a stream starts flowing through a wasteland, it has the ability to change the entire geographical landscape. That's wild, bro. Think about that. Think about a place like the Grand Canyon. You know, you've got this unbelievable geological wonder that you can go look at, you know, and I've never been there, but even the pictures, they leave you completely in awe. And if you know anything about geography and how that place was formed, it was formed by water. Water changed the entire landscape. Somebody out there, you need to know that God can change your landscape right where you are. You don't need to go somewhere else. You don't need to be with that person. You don't need to be at that event. He can change everything around you. What an epic force of nature when you think about this. And here we are, like all these years later, and who knows when that thing was formed, but all these years later, all these generations later, we're still standing in awe of what this force of change has created. It made me think, man, like, bro, I wonder what God could do in my life if I can let go of the past. And I mean, like, really, bro, like, really let go of the past. Let go of the hardship. Let go of the unforgiveness. Let go of the bitterness. Let go of the regret. Let go of the childhood trauma. I wonder what new landscape could be carved in my heart if I'm just willing to let go. I wonder what landscape God could cut through your city. I wonder what he could do in your region, in my region, if we just step into his river. See, some of us don't realize it, but we've become a wasteland. I want to give you a little tidbit of wisdom in your life, and I'm thankful for the people in my life that live this out. But it's important to have people around you that can point out when life has become a wasteland for you. And there's been times in my life where my life was a wasteland. Nothing felt alive. Nothing was growing. I was stuck. And what happens is, this is the space, if we're willing to acknowledge it and we're willing to lean into it, that's the place where renewal and miracles can happen. You want to know one of the biggest ways that God wants to change us? You know, one of the biggest ways he wants to do a new thing, it's in our perception and definition of love. There's an artist, a guy by the name of Aaron Strumpel, and he's got this song, and there's a lyric in it. It's the chorus, and it says, "If we stop loving on our own terms, grace will lead us home." See, some of us, the reason why we can't move forward, the reason why we can't break free from our past is we've never learned to love ourselves. Man, we can love everybody else. We could show grace to everybody else, but we can't show it to ourselves. And Jesus shows up with this amazing promise, and he says, hey, I want you to know that you can come to me as you are. And we tell people they can come to Jesus as they are, but we still haven't come to Jesus as we are. When you think about marriage, and, I think about my incredible wife, my boo, Sarah, she'll be here next episode for sure. When you marry somebody, man, you make these vows, and there's this sacred moment when you read vows. I just did a wedding for some friends recently, and we stood outside, and they made these vows, and there's this promise in those traditional vows that say, in sickness and in health, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer. What do those vows express when you really think about it? It's an acknowledgement, man, at a wedding, bro. Like when you sit there and you listen to that, it's everybody's acknowledging that every day is not going to be like the wedding day. Every day is not going to be like the wedding day. And there's some of you may be listening to this and you just came to God. You just had this spiritual awakening and you feel this life and this vitality and you feel the energy and the passion. But there's going to come some sickness. There's going to come some worse. There's going to come some struggle in that journey and in that process. And when somebody says, for better or for worse, for sickness and health, for richer or for poor, what are they acknowledging, man? They're acknowledging that life by nature is this ever-changing river, right? This ever-changing river. And for me, when I got married to my wife, Sarah, to say yes to her during that ceremony was not just to say yes to that version of her, but it was to say yes to every version that she would become. It's pursuing not only the person she was on that day and not just who she was yesterday, it's pursuing who she is today, right here, right now. It's easy to get lazy and to get complacent. And back to my friend Luke Day, and I should call this the Luke Day episode. I miss that dude, my homeboy. He's coaching down for the Gamecocks, doing strength coach training down there. Shout out to Luke Day, Man Child Media. That's my homeboy. We just got to go down there not long ago to hang out in Charleston. Super dope city. Had a great time. A lot of beaches, a lot of fun stuff. Too much shopping, but yeah, it was a good time. And on his blog one time, he was talking about one of his own struggles a while back in his own marriage. And, I asked him if I could share this. And this is what he said about his own marriage. He said, "I'm so familiar to my wife, I'm foreign to her. And likewise with her. 10 years later, I'm still trying to impress the 21-year-old version of my wife, striking out hard and hating her for it. She isn't even attempting with me because there's too much puke, too many butts that need wiped, and someone has tears streaming down their face. It seems like somebody is always crying, so logic has confronted me with this ultimatum of human exchange. We change over time and how we feel as well. What worked today, what worked 10 years ago won't work today. What worked yesterday won't work today. I've heard breakups chalked up to, I just don't feel the same. Of course you don't. That's not possible. Grandma doesn't feel like the prom queen anymore. Your wife doesn't feel like the girl giggly you talk to, like the giggly little girl that you talk to for the first time. You don't feel the same because you are not the same." Man, that's powerful. That's powerful. And don't worry about Luke and his bride, man. They're doing great. They have a great marriage. But I love him because he's honest and he's real. And it's powerful when you learn, when you understand that we are all changing, bro. Homegirl, you're changing. You might think you're the same. You might think you do the same, but you're changing. There's things that are different. There's ways in which you're evolving and you're being shaped by the world around you that you don't even know. One of the easiest ways to learn to lean into changing is you gotta stop doing the same thing. Can we just get practical and real here for a moment? Some of you, when you go to the restaurant, right? You go to that spot, you want that spot. Man, I got a taste for Italian. So I'm going to rock out to Oxford. I'm going to get that chicken fettuccine Alfredo. Man, it's so good. It's unbelievable. If you're ever near Oxford, that place is amazing, amazing. And so I'll go to the restaurant. I'll look at the menu. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to try something different today. Man, you ain't trying nothing different. My wife will do the same thing. We'll go to another place. Oh, let me see what they got. You don't need to see what they got. You're getting the same 4-cheese ravioli, homegirl. Some small ways you can start to lean into the fact that we're all changing. Just try some different food. Some of you've had that same haircut for 20 years, for 10 years, for 8 years. It's time to try something different. Some of you've been listening to that same song over and over and over, and you wonder why it ain't hitting anymore. It's time to find another song. Things change in our relationships with people, and they change in our relationship with God. For a lot of us, man, if you think about it, and I've had these times in my walk with the Lord, there's these seasons that I'll hit where I just can I just be honest and be real with you? Because I can't play the pretend game. I refuse to play Christian code switching. I can't do it. And there's been seasons in my life, I just want to be honest and vulnerable and transparent for a moment. There's been seasons in my life, even as a pastor, even as somebody who's been in ministry for years, that I just get bored, bro. I get bored with the whole church thing. I get so bored, and it just seems like the same thing over and over and over, and I feel like a hamster on the wheel, you know what I mean? And oftentimes I'll go through these seasons and, I just keep pushing. I hold on. I remind myself of what I know is true. But the way in which I learn to find my way out of those seasons quicker as time goes on is I start to realize that maybe I've changed. Even though God hasn't changed and Jesus hasn't changed, maybe I need to change the way that I approach the Lord. I need to change the way that I approach the word. Maybe for you, you've been reading that same translation. Maybe it's time to switch it up. Maybe it's time to throw on the audio Bible. You've been listening to the same worship band over and over and over. Maybe it's time to switch it up. We're not the same person we were 10 years ago, right? And maybe the way we return to Jesus and our first love is by acknowledging that something has changed and that something is us. Maybe the way we return to our first love is to head down an entirely different path. Romans 12:2 talks about it this way. It says, don't be conformed by the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So what is God saying? He's saying that, hey, in this walk of Jesus, in this way of Jesus, like you're going through a transformation, and the transformation starts in the mind. It starts in the mind. You got to renew your mind. And I heard somebody say this one time, that following Jesus, it's just as much about unlearning as it is learning. Part of the way I wish somebody would have told me this early on, bro. Like, there's some things that I learned about God and about the world and about myself that I need to unlearn. There's some things that there's some patterns of the world. There's some things that I've conformed to that I need to unlearn. There's some things I need to let go. So yes, it's new information. It's digging into that word. It's providing a opposite perspective. It's not living in an echo chamber. It's surrounding myself with different voices and surrounding myself with people who will counteract what the enemy wants to say to me and what the culture is saying. Yes, it's that. It's not living in an echo chamber, but it's also, I need to unlearn some stuff. See, this verse, it has some really interesting implications when we dive into it. Essentially, what it's saying is that we are impressionable beings, and that it's nearly impossible to remain unchanged by our environments. Some of you may have heard the phrase, those of you like me from the hood, he moved out. You can take him out the hood, but the hood isn't out of him. You can get out of prison, but the prison is still in you. You can't live a human life and remain the same. To be transformed by the renewal of the mind is to experience this regeneration and this renewal. To conform, it can actually mean to adopt the form of those around you. That's what it actually means, to adopt the form of those around you. There's a lot of people, even a lot of people who say they follow Jesus and they're connected with a church. They just conform to the people that they're around. They're like chameleons. The moment they go in this environment that is this color and this temperature, they match that color and that temperature. Because why? They don't know who they are. And I'll never forget, man, my homeboy's grandmother. I was living up in Cleveland, and this is a great way to describe this. My friend Benji, his grandmother came up from Puerto Rico to visit. It was the middle of winter in Cleveland, and winter in Cleveland is winter for real. Like, these people in Cincinnati, they just don't know. They don't know. They think it's winter because it's a little chilly outside. No, it's winter because you got to dig a tunnel out of your house. And so, it's snow everywhere. It's foot and a half, 2 feet of snow. We go about our lives. If you don't, you'll never get anything done up there. And so I'm kicking it with my friend. We had just made a couple beats. We were working on an album or something. He said, hey man, I want you to meet my grandmother. So we go over to the spot where his grandma's at. Now, mind you, it's cold outside, but we get up to the house. This is on the west side of Cleveland. And we walk up to the front of the house, and the windows are like fogged up, bro. Like, I'll never forget this. It was so funny. The windows were fogged up like a sauna, like completely fogged up. And I'm like, dang, like what's going on? Is it really that cold out? But it didn't feel that cold. Like, there was a lot of snow, but it was like that they were fogged up completely. Like, you couldn't see it. So we go in there, and it's so hot, bro. It's so hot. And I don't do well with heat. Like, I freak out. You want to see me go from 0 to 100, put me in a hot, stagnant room, And we get in there, and it's so hot. It's so dry. I could like barely blink my eyeballs. I feel like, bro, you got some Visine? Like, I can't even blink my eyes, And he's like, hey, grandma, this is my friend Patrick, say hi. Hey, Patrick, say hi to my grandma. And I'm looking, and I don't see anybody. So in my eyes, I'm scanning around the room. I don't see anybody on the furniture, but on this couch, I see this huge pile of blankets. And so I'm looking, I hear a voice, and sure enough, bro, I look closer, and it was like, if you know what them Teletubby bodies look like, you know, they got the fur, and then it's just a little skin face or whatever, you know. So I see this mountain of blankets, and I see this little Puerto Rican grandmother face just peeking out. She was so cold. It must have been 100 degrees in the house. She was still wrapped in blankets, you know. It was hot, bro. It was hot. I'm like, all right, it was great meeting you. I got to go outside. I can't breathe up in here. Why do I tell you that? Why did I tell you that? You know, I tell you that because when you think about being acclimated to your environment, when you think about this idea of being transformed by the renewing of your mind, what is the opposite of that, of being transformed? It's to conform, to adopt the form of those around you. In Benji's grandmother's house, or the family's house, wherever she was staying at, there was something on the wall called a thermostat. And the thermostat, what you can do is you walk over there. We all know, we've all done it. Some of us have gotten in trouble because we grew up poor and we were always turning the heat up when it wasn't supposed to be on, always turning the AC on when it wasn't supposed to be on, you know? What does it do? That thermostat, it controls the environment. It determines the temperature and the atmosphere of the environment. And so to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, what it does is it takes us from being thermometers to being thermostats. What is a thermometer? A thermometer is just a measuring gauge that you take into a room. You know, I remember I used to get in trouble because they told me when I was in elementary school, you know, the thermometers got mercury in them. Be careful, don't break them. You know, I was a bad kid. So the moment you tell me that, I'm like, let's go. Let me find all the thermometers and crush them with my shoe. All the kids are freaking out, you know. But what does a thermometer do? A thermometer, you walk into the room and it tells you what the temperature already is. It adjusts, the mercury goes up to the exact level of the temperature of the room, and that's how a lot of us we live our lives. Depending on which room we're in, which environment we're in, what people we're around, we adjust to that environment and we match the environment. But what is God getting at here when he's talking about doing a new thing, when he's talking about transforming our hearts and our minds and taking us from being conformists to being non-conformists? What is he saying? He's saying, hey, bro, I want to take you, hey, girl, I want to change you from being a thermometer to a thermostat. I want to do something in your life that when you walk in a room, the temperature of the room changes, bro. You ever meet somebody like that? You ever been in a situation or an environment that was hard, it was heavy, or it was, you know, you felt the despair, and then boom, the moment that woman walks in, the moment that dude walks in, they don't even have to say anything. There's just a presence about them. What is that? They're not a thermometer. They've learned to be a thermostat. That's the new thing that God wants to do in the lives of anybody in this world who says that they're following Jesus in 2024. That's what the world desperately needs, bro. Like that's what this city needs. That's what your city needs, wherever you're at listening to this. They don't need more thermometers. They need you to be a thermostat. They need you to be a thermostat. In Matthew 7:13, it says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And many enter through it, but small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. What is he saying? He's saying, hey, it's easy to just go along with things. It's easy to just follow suit. It's easy just to get in line with the cattle and the sheep and follow what everybody else is doing. The road to complacency in your life, in your marriage, in your friendship, in your walk with the Lord, it's this wide road. It's an easy road. It's an easy path. It's well worn. It's the default path for most of us. It's easily accessible, but the road that leads to life, it requires me, man, to be a nonconformist. How does this really flesh out? Your daddy might have walked the easy road. Your mom might have followed the crowd, but you don't have to. You don't have to. There's some great things in my family tree I hope to pass on. There's some things I've learned from my family members and from those that have come before me in my genealogy. There's some amazing things that I hope that I get to pass on. But I can also tell you there's some things that I get to choose. Like, not that, bro. Like, I'm not passing that on. Revelation 22, it talks about the revelation of heaven and what's going to happen. And it says, and he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. John 7:37 through 39. Now on the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried out, saying, if anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. He who believes in me, as scripture says, from his innermost being will flow rivers of living water. Remember the desert. Remember, all of humanity is living in this barren landscape, and Jesus interrupts that. He kicks the door down. He breaks through the drywall, and he says, I know this has been a barren landscape. I know your family that came before you lived in a barren landscape, but I want you to know that the moment you say yes to me, homeboy, homegirl, I can cause a river of living water to come out of your life. I can give you water that will satisfy you in a way that nothing else will. Revelation 21:6. Then he said to me, it is done. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. That's like the mic drop, bro. The rap battle, the last line. I am the Alpha and the Omega. The beginning and the end, you know. I will give to the one who thirsts from the spring of the water of life without cost. What is Jesus saying? Hey, bro, if you want this new life, if you want to experience the new thing, I want you to know that I'll give it to you freely because I've already paid the price. 2 Corinthians 3:17, now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty. If you're feeling mentally locked up, if you're feeling psychologically, emotionally locked up, I want you to know that God can liberate you, bro. God can liberate you, homegirl. It goes on, verse 18, but we all with open face beholding, as in the glass, the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. No man, no woman ever steps in the same river twice. For it is not the same river, and she is not the same woman, and he is not the same man. Jesus is inviting us to step into the river again. It may have been a long time for you, man, since you put your toe in there. You may be holding on to your past. You may be holding on to the good old days. He invites you to the river and to let go of all you've known of who he is. For our former image of him is too small. See, God can get tiny if we're not careful. The Spirit is always moving and is doing a new thing, and we are in a constant state of change. Stop fighting it, bro. Stop fighting the change. Just step into the river of God. Those of you that are stuck as you're listening to this, maybe you're stuck in the good old days or you're stuck in the regret from the darkness of your past. How's that working for you? Stop fighting it, man. Just step into the river. You won't be the same man. You won't be the same woman. And you won't encounter God the same way. You think about the Dead Sea. The reason it's the Dead Sea is because water only comes in from one direction and it never goes out. Why is it the Dead Sea? Because water goes in, but it doesn't go out. Brianna Wiest, and I'll wrap this episode up with this, man. This is a powerful, powerful statement. Brianna Wiest, in her book, The Mountain Is You, says this: your new life is going to cost you your old one. Oh, got him. Oh, see, some of us, we want that new thing, bro. We want that new thing, but we won't let go of the old. Your new life is going to cost you your old one. Ladies, you got too much stuff in your closet, man. You ain't got nowhere to put the new blouse, the new shirt, the new fit. It's going to cost you your comfort zone and your sense of direction. It's going to cost you your relationship and friends. It's going to cost you being liked and understood. It doesn't matter. See, the new life, the new thing that God wants to do in your life, it's so much better. The people who are meant for you, listen to me. Somebody needs to hear this right here. The people who are meant for you are going to meet you on the other side. See, some of us are holding on to people we need to let go. Some of us have known nothing but one-way relationships. One-direction relationships. It's never returned. You're always calling and asking how they are, and they never pick up the phone and ask how you are. You're always there for them, but the moment you're in crisis and you need help, they're never there for you. It's time to let go of some people. The people who are meant for you are going to meet you on the other side. You're going to build a new comfort zone around the things that actually move you forward. That sounds like a good New Year's resolution. Building a new comfort zone around the things that actually move me forward. Listen to this. Hey, this is powerful. Instead of being liked, you're going to be loved. Wow. Wow. Instead of being liked, you're going to be loved. Instead of being understood, you're going to be seen. There's a big difference, isn't it? I don't know about you, but man, give me a couple people who love me more than some likes on social media. Give me a couple people who love me more than some views on a video or some subscriptions to a podcast. Give me some people that love me instead of just like me. Man, I'll take that any day of the week over the former. Give me a couple people that see me, that really see me. Give me a few people who see me for who I am and not just what I can do to benefit them. Instead of being understood, you're going to be seen. Listen, here we go. This is the bomb. Here we go. You ready? Nagasaki, here we go. All you're going to lose is what was built for the person you no longer are. All you're going to lose is what was built for the person that you no longer are. See, we're all changing. Remaining attached to your old life is the first and final act of self-sabotage. Oh, let me read that again. Remaining attached to your old life is the first and final act of self-sabotage, and releasing it is what we must prepare for to truly be willing to see real change. We're all changing whether we like it or not. But are we changing into the person we were called and made to be? Are we being transformed into his image or the image of everybody else around us? We're all changing, homeboy, homegirl. The question is, into who and into what? Grace and peace, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first episode of 2024 Fringe Podcast. So glad to be back. We're going to have some exciting guests. Thank you for joining us. Please spread the word. Tell somebody about what we're doing. If you'd like to know more about the mission, the ministry, everything we have popping on this side of the Ohio River, you can look us up at www.thefringehamilton.com, thefringehamilton.com, or www.thefringeindustries.org, fringeindustries.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope this has been a great conversation for you. We will see you soon. Grace and peace.